to Innovative Tac-Tips, where I love to interview leaders in trailblazers in the tech industry, business, and just sports and overall on what are insights that they have that are invaluable that you can add to your daily life. So I'm here with the wonderful Michelle Paitich, and she is. I'm going to let you introduce what you do and yeah, what do you do and all of that. So
First of all, thank you for having me, not only generally, but also during Women's History Month. So it's a
mhm,
great time to be together and
mhm,
chatting as two
mhm.
women in this industry. It's awesome. I am the Global Vice President of Channel Sales at 8x8. I joined 3.5 months ago. And before then, I had been at Twilio and Salesforce. And then I actually started out my career working at a law firm in New York and San Francisco and Hong Kong.
Wow. So, okay. So I did a little homework. So you came from really big brands, Salesforce, Twilio, etc. I would love to know what's been your most memorable moment of your career so far.
Oh my God. Most memorable moment of my career. Um, I feel like it becomes harder the more moments we have, the longer
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
have careers.
Yeah.
Um, so a couple of things. I
Mhm.
think there have, like anybody, highs and lows. I would say the hard times in my career or the times where I messed up, those are definitely memorable, and have stuck with me quite a bit. And the highs are wonderful too. And for the highs, for example, when I think about what has been the most memorable, they're actually the things that have stuck with me the most have been the things that have helped me think about the work that I'm doing. So, for example, when I was at Salesforce, I worked for a leader who was very visionary when it came to what the market opportunity is, what it means for us, how we're going to get there. And there were, we'd have these offsites, and there are a couple that are from, over 10 years ago that have stuck with me because the way that he would lay out where we are, the what we have achieved and how we have grown, and each of our individual roles on that journey and as a part of that is just so powerful that it has continued to be something that I go back to and that I refer back to every time because, whether you work at a company big or small, we're all a part of driving things forward, and that has continued to stuck with me and something that I strive to do as a leader as well when I'm working with my teams or across teams.
I appreciate that because I'm a big advocate of teamwork and just being collaborative. I think there's more than one good idea, one constructive, I guess, criticism per se of like modifying go to market activities. And so I appreciate you saying that. To build off of that, has there been failure of yours or parent failure that has set you up later for success in your career?
Totally. So, by the way, before I answer that, the other thing that I want to say is you talking about teamwork. I always look to hire people who are nothing like me or to build teams that aren't that know things that I don't know, that have experiences I don't know, because we're all so much better as a
Mhm.
result. And so I am constantly asking my team for feedback and partners for feedback. I mean, since I joined 8x8 3.5 months ago, I've been on a listening tour asking questions, and I know what I know, but
Mhm.
that's this much of the
Mhm.
universe that is available. And I don't know all the ways to do things, and the more we're working together, the more powerful all of that becomes, and the more fun it is too. Um, which is just one of my favorite things. But Phil, I work with somebody who always asks the interview question, do you love to win or do you hate to lose? And so I sort of think about failures in the same way. Like I hate to fail, which is so absurd because we all have that's life, right? That's part of being human. Um, but some of my biggest failures have stuck with me so much that it has really changed how I think about things. And actually, some of my earliest failures are some of the biggest. Like my first job out of college was working in New York City for a huge corporate law firm. Fun fact, I always did leadership stuff growing up. So starting in like sixth grade, I started not only holding leadership positions, but going to like leadership camp in California and and conferences and things like that. And so through college, I gave a presentation to our board of trustees and ended up, going to get an internship and a job at this law firm. And law firms are, one of the things their clients pay them to do is to be very precise
Mhm.
and be very accurate. And
Mhm.
I was 22 and just, doing my job and crossing it off the list and handing it back.
Mhm.
And I was making so many mistakes. And it just not even on my radar because I wasn't thinking about it that way. And my bosses started to really come down on me, so much so that like on a daily basis, I'm crying and I'm calling my mom to say, I think I might get fired. Do I need to come home? What am I doing here? I'm pretty sure I'm failing. And so I finally had a conversation with my boss, who's this like huge corporate
Mhm.
partner. And I said, do I need to find a new job? And he said, no, but we need you to get better. So we're working with you. We need you to up your game. And that conversation was so empowering. And I felt like, okay, great. I can up my game. I can do that. And it really now helps me understand not only is it about being on the journey and always continuing to improve, but now I look for opportunities to
Mhm.
continue to grow and learn
Mhm.
and develop. And hey, let me tell you, I am very accurate now when it
Mhm.
comes to writing emails or putting together PowerPoints or any of that stuff because it was painful.
I when I was in elementary school, I was Girl Scouts, and so I went door to door selling Girl Scout cookies, and then I tried to sell pine cones for a dollar. So
Yep.
I don't know if you would say leadership, but definitely like taking the lead
Oh
of
yeah.
trying things, right? And when I got out of college, I had my first 100% commission sales role. It was a roller coaster of emotions because yeah, I've gotten no, but when it comes to getting brutal feedback, it you can only have so many ego bruises, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it feels you to be okay. Well, I'm going to do better next time. I'm going to do better next
Oh yeah.
time, and you'll see it. It's kind of like that. So I appreciate that because it really does build one character and two just I guess more moxie, really, just because it's.
Yeah.
I think that's a great character trait of a good leader is being able to be resilient and grow and get better. The next time or just pushing forward, right? Pushing progress. So that's that sounds like a hashtag or like a good market strategy. Anyways, so
Well, we all suffer from the same human condition, right? It's like this stuff is going to happen no
yeah.
matter what, and we're not going to like it.
Mhm.
But it's all about how we respond to each one of these things and then what we do about it afterwards. And some are going to be small and some are going to be big. And man, the number of times that I will just spend days ruminating about something that isn't even necessarily a big deal, I would say that that's probably more than I need to be doing. But
Mhm.
that's a good learning opportunity for me too, right? It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I don't need to maybe do that, but
Mhm.
how is this constructive and where do we go forward?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what makes us good at our jobs too.
Yeah.
The bad stuff is what makes us good at our jobs.
So from experiences, I'm a bookworm. What is books you have given most as a gift and why? And then what are 1 to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life on top
Mm.
of the experiences have that you have on your belt basically from from your duration of your career?
Yeah, I like it. I have so many, man, you can't see it, but I've got a huge
Mhm,
bookshelf over there.
mhm,
Um, the two that I have given the most as books are not new books, but
mhm.
I have them here, so I'm going to show you. I always give this to my leaders. Yep, I know it's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
know exactly.
Yeah.
This is like a pretty old copy now,
Just
I think.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I always give this as gifts, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, which is you want to build a diverse team of people who have different skill sets so that we're all working together in the most
Mhm,
productive way.
mhm,
And then the other one that maybe I haven't given it as a gift, but I've given away
mhm.
multiple times and then I have to keep repurchasing it is the first 90 days.
Oh.
So when I went to grad school, I got my MBA at UC Berkeley. This was required reading for one of the classes. So I read it at the time, reread it whenever I reread it. And then I keep giving it away to people. And then when I change jobs, then I want to go reread it again. So I
Mhm,
have to keep buying it. So this is the one that I bought most recently. But essentially, it's good for any career transition.
mhm,
So anytime you go to a new job, you get a promotion, maybe you go to a new company, any of those kinds of transitions. And now there's a second one for more specifics, but it's so helpful. It gives you
mhm,
the blueprints. It helps you identify
mhm,
what kind of scenario you're going into. It's a great handbook.
mhm,
And then the one other thing that I talk about a lot, that is really, really cool. Again, this is from business school. So this is a pretty old book.
mhm,
But there's a guy named Alexander Osterwalder. And there's a whole website called Strategizer. And so they've done a ton of these books, and I didn't pull them all off of my book. Obviously, I use it because it's got tags.
mhm. Yeah.
Um, I've got a bunch on my bookshelf, but it's
Mhm,
all about, how to work as a team to achieve goals. So how to put together a business model and a business plan, how to put together a value proposition, invincible ideas when you're
mhm,
creating a new product, all these
mhm,
different things
mhm,
that sort of more like design thinking
mhm,
approach to how to do this stuff, but
mhm,
it's really, really cool.
mhm.
So those are frameworks that I really like to use and pull out when I'm working with my teams.
I'll have to get the first 90 days because I don't know if I've heard of that. Which again,
Oh, it's great.
there's so many books, so
I
I
know.
will have to. I'm gonna obviously. I think I went to Barnes and Noble for I think the first time in 3 years because usually I just order everything off Amazon,
Yeah,
which I was like a little embarrassed about because I was like, this
what's
is
happening?
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll have to go to Barnes and Noble and check that out. Or get the book, right? Start reading it because you want to read the first, few
Yeah.
pages. But yeah, I'll have to. And then I guess, what are bad recommendations you hear in your profession or area of expertise?
Oh my gosh. So sometimes I think the bad recommendations are when it results in the way that people choose to work or not work. And honestly, for me, it comes down to things like, and maybe this isn't really a recommendation, maybe this is more of a mindset thing, but
Mhm,
the things that I look at are one of the things that I think is really cool about being in the partner world, being in the channel world, is everyone is like their own small business owner or their own little VC or their own little CEO of their business, of their territory. And there's so much that is really cool about that
mhm,
because you're building your own business, you're doing risk assessments, you're doing all kinds of strategic planning with your partners. Um, that's the really fun stuff, I think. And there are so many different types of partners to do that with.
mhm,
And so I think the things that get in the way are if someone doesn't feel like the owner, doesn't or isn't acting like the owner, where it doesn't feel like we've got what one of the things I say to the team all the time is control what you can control.
mhm,
Because there's plenty of stuff that we
mhm,
can't,
mhm,
macro and micro things.
mhm,
But it's always control what you can control.
mhm.
And so when people point to so many other things that are getting in the way, which are very real, and I get that, but
Yeah.
there's a lot that we're able to do and to move forward. So I think that's one of the things. And then I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and we were talking about the need for scale and the
Yeah.
systems and the tools and
Mhm.
processes that we were going to need to put in place for scale,
Mhm.
which is awesome.
Mhm.
And I absolutely want to go there and I absolutely want to scale. But in the
Mhm.
meantime,
Mhm.
we got to get, we got to be able to iterate
Mhm.
and make sure that what we're going to scale is the right stuff.
Mhm.
So while I want to make progress and I want to sprint,
Mhm.
I don't want the focus on scale to prevent progress right now. And so I'm all about
Mhm.
progress,
Yeah.
not perfection. We're all on
Mhm.
this journey, and
Yeah.
that's the point.
Yeah.
But I think if you get too focused on, well, we can't do that right now because of other teams, or we can't do that right now because we're building for scale, then
Yeah.
you lose sight of the fact that there's very real and tangible um,
Yeah.
efforts that we can see pay off now.
Yeah. No, I think a lot about this well, just in previous employers and stuff. It's I think people automatically go for the well, that can't happen. It's like, let's think outside the box. Let's think out why can't you know it's there's more than just a no, there's a okay. And like just to kind of deep diver into that because I do think people block not block, but like stop things from like things that they're I don't know if it's the comfort zone or whatever, but it's just like push through your frame of thinking. Maybe it has to resort back to designing, a business or a business model or just like basically an outline of okay, what needs to get done. Anyway, it's the strategy per se, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people get just kind of polarized, right? Because they're like, well, anyways, I agree. I think that there's definitely a different way to think about one scale and what you need to focus on because yeah I think a lot especially businesses sometimes people who interchange different types of groups right or leaders or whatever I think we sometimes you lose sight on like what's the most important thing and then like the fundamentals right let's think about the fundamentals and then scale so I don't know if we're speaking the same language I
No,
think
we totally are. But you're
okay
bringing me to another book that I really like,
okay
which is Start with Why by Simon Sinek,
yeah
which is, if people don't want to read the book, it's one of
mm-hmm.
the most watched TED Talks.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even originally on the TEDx main stage, it was a TEDx conference,
Mm-hmm.
but always starting with why.
Mm-hmm.
It's also great to listen to because he
Mm-hmm.
narrates it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so helpful because then everyone's oriented around the same goal. Everyone knows
Mm-hmm.
why we're focused on it. And then you can figure out how we're going to get there and how we're going to measure. But at least if we all know why, then we've all got a foundational way to do that. And this is one of the reasons that I love facilitating brainstorming and discussions and facilitating team meetings, because once everybody is a part of the process,
Mm-hmm.
even if everybody didn't agree, we all got there together and we're
Mm-hmm.
all in the same boat and we're all rowing the same direction. And I think that's really powerful.
I, yeah, I echo that because everyone needs to be involved. I don't care if you're on the sales department. I don't care if you're marketing department. I don't care. Like everyone needs to know where we're going because they need to be bought in or not be like, to me, it's like, if you're not bought in, let me know now. You know what I mean? It's like, we all need to be bought into where we're going. So I completely, I'm passionate about that. So I appreciate that.
Nice.
So a couple more questions,
Yeah.
two left. So if you could have a billboard that could reach millions of people, what would you put on it?
Okay, you and I were talking about this, and I don't have a quote. So I'm going to use, and this is something I say to marketing teams all the time, is I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll wave my hands around and use a bunch of words to
Yeah.
say the
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that I want to say. And then can you figure out how to fit it on a billboard? That would be great. Um, it's funny because you just said a billboard for like millions of people. And in my head, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about like my kids and what I would want to put on a billboard for my kids. Because and honestly, it's not dissimilar from what how I talk to people who I'm coaching, people who work with me, for me. But anyway, I have two young kids. And we're at that stage where, big personalities, pushing boundaries, kind of
Mhm.
figuring out friend stuff, like all of those things that are starting to happen. My son's in T-ball now, so we've got a lot of that going on.
Mhm.
And so many of the conversations that my husband and I have are, you know, wanting to instill in them their own sense of trusting themselves, self-worth,
Mhm.
um, not just having boundaries, but like understanding and honoring their feelings and being able to
Mhm.
communicate that. And
Yeah.
the billboard that I would want to put up would be like, you got it.
Mhm.
And so much of what we're doing is about respecting ourselves and each other, but
Mhm.
not basing it on what other people's expectations are. I mean, I think
Mhm.
I spent a lot of my life
Mhm.
um, being very achievement oriented. I was born with a congenital heart defect, and it was my heart's still on the right side of my body, um,
Yeah.
which is like my fun fact.
Yeah.
But it was so early on in
Mhm.
heart surgery for kids
Mhm.
that there was a lot of fear around what that
Mhm.
meant and what would my life be like. And
Mhm.
so I kind of overdid it. I was like, "No, I'm good. Don't worry about it. Let me show you. I'm going to do all the things and it's going to be amazing."
Yeah.
And so I really went for and by the way, it's stuff that I like. So I think some of that was just natural.
Yeah.
I really went to like, look, I'm doing all this amazing stuff. And I think that then meant that I like was looking for validation a
Mm.
lot.
Mhm.
And all of it was stuff that I like to do. So that all works and that tracks.
Yeah.
But it took me, you know, a good chunk of my career to finally realize, wait a second, if I'm just doing what feels good and right for me, and if I'm trusting myself, and if I'm just showing up the way that I am instead of,
Mhm.
the way I think other people expect me to show up, or, when early in my career, I was always the youngest person in the room, one of the only women in the room, still usually one of few women in the room a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Um, but that early on, that impacted the way that I would show up.
Mhm.
And I felt like I needed to act like I had more experience than I really did. I mean, like, how much experience do I have in my first job? Not a lot,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
tried to act like I did. So at this
Mhm.
point, oh my God, it's so much better just to show up the way you are. And no matter how much experience you have, to show up as you are,
Mhm.
ask all the dumb questions because most people have the same dumb questions, and do
Mhm.
work that energizes you, that
Mhm.
feels good,
Mhm.
that I don't know what the end goal is for me, but
Mhm.
I know what I like to do. I know how I
Mhm.
like to spend my time. I know what I'm good at, and that's the
Mhm.
journey.
Mhm.
So it'd be some very short billboard that
Mhm.
encompasses just like you're a badass and you're good and
Mhm.
be
Like
on the
you got it.
journey
Like you
because the
got it.
journey's
Keep
fun and
going.
it's hard, but it's also super fun.
Yes. Yeah. No, I basically you got it. Like keep going. I mean, like yeah. To me, that perseverance. I think yeah. Believe in yourself. I think believe like stop doubting yourself would probably like what I would probably put on it. Like stop doubt because I think a lot of people we doubt ourselves because we're like, oh, did that? I mean, I do because you're like, oh, did that sound genuine? Because that's what I meant, right? Anyways,
Totally.
so yeah, no, I think you got it. Like, or yeah, I think Liz Logan, who I interviewed from 911 Secure, she was like, be true to yourself, which I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
is echoing of what you're saying. And I agree. I think sometimes we lose sight of our confidence because we care about others. And so that tends to kind of maybe cloud our internal not justice system, but just something like that. So I appreciate that because I think a lot of the time people portray themselves as not as authentic as they should. So I appreciate that a lot. Last
It's hard,
question.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. Again, I could talk probably for a long time, so I just want to make sure I'm like
No, no, no. I mean, I think it's hard, and
Mhm.
we're all just trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was the youngest in my family and I hung out with my sister. My sister, I don't want to date her, but she's like 5 years older than I am. Anyways, I don't want to throw out the year because she'd be like, "That's so rude." But
How dare you?
I always want to, yeah, I'd always want to be like her age or like always be 5, 10 years older, right? Because it's like I felt the same way because I always wanted to be that, but it's like I'm actually okay with where I'm at
Yeah.
because I have a different perspective. So I think a lot of the times with being unique in the room, right? Like I think sometimes we second guess ourselves. So I completely admire that. Where can people find you to learn more about you or to learn like what you're up to or what you're cooking behind the scenes? Where can people find out more about you?
We at 8 by 8 are pretty good at putting stuff out on LinkedIn. So I think that's probably the best place
Okay.
to look for more. We are going to be launching our new partner program pretty soon. I shouldn't say new partner program. I should just say program year
Hmm.
in April. And there's going to be a lot of good stuff coming out in the year. So I think, yeah, keep your eyes on LinkedIn. There's going to be some fun stuff.
Well, thank you, Michelle.
Thanks for having
Appreciate
me.
your time. Excuse me, time. Sometimes words come out and you're like, "Ooh, that word
Words are
sounds
hard.
good." Words are hard.
Words
So
are
thank
hard.
you. Yeah, thank you for your time. Again, Women's History Month.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to have people learn more about you, and I will run into you again.
You sure will. Thank you for having me. And
Yeah,
I'm loving what you're doing. So I can't wait to see more.
thank you.